Breaking news into WWE. Paige is leaving. This was big time news. It just broke just about, I think, an hour ago or less than an hour ago, actually. But Paige has announced that she is leaving. Yes, leaving WWE, the company she's been with for over a decade now. It's insane to think about, but it's also something that many people saw coming. Now, we'll talk about each part of this, and I do want to get to Paige's statement in just a second because she did release a statement. First, I want to say hello to everyone in the chat. Cincy, Liam, welcome. If you're joining us for the first time, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. No, she did not retire in 2018, Liam. She did not leave in 2018. She did retire from pro wrestling. But let's talk about Paige. Let's talk about the statement that she just put out on Twitter. Again, this was just about, I believe, 30 minutes ago as of this recording. Boom, here it is in all its lack of glory. Boom, there we go. But as I work to pull it up, guys, it's a great moment to support the channel. Boom. All right, here we go. So this, you can see kind of Paige's statement that she released on Twitter today. Quote, Paige here. July 7th will be my last day with WWE. I'm so thankful and I appreciate the opportunities that the company has given me. I will always be appreciative of the company that took me in at 18 years old, that took in an 18-year-old British pale emo girl that didn't look like the average diva, giving me the chance of a lifetime and making me feel like a superstar. I know after my neck injury taking me out of in-ring status, it was pretty hard to keep me around as far as you did, and I'm thankful for that too. She also went on to thank the WWE Universe. You can see right here, thank you to the WWE Universe. You guys are the most passionate group of fans I've ever seen. Hope you continue to stay on this journey with me. I think the toughest part, weirdly enough, is having to let the Paige name go. Say Saraya Knight, that's her name. Saraya Knight. Saraya is a hell of a name. Kudos to my mom for that one. FYI, I'm not saying I'll never be in the ring again. That day will most certainly come again, whenever the return may be. Thank you, Saraya. Saraya, however you say that. Either way, Paige is leaving WWE, and she's most certainly wrestling again. It's huge news. This is absolutely big news because this is one of those dominoes that people have been talking about for a long time, right? We've been talking about Paige and her status. She hasn't wrestled, I believe, since 2017. She suffered an injury with taking a backbreaker at a house event from Sasha Banks. And again, that's no fault of Sasha Banks. These things happen in pro wrestling. But it was unfortunate because Paige was and arguably still is one of in-ring wrestlers and overall packages as a wrestler there is out there. So to have her in a position where she possibly could be a free agent, or she's going to be a free agent. Like, Paige is going to be a free agent. She's leaving the company. And she said she's going to wrestle. So, I mean, the big question is obviously who's going to get her. And we'll talk about that. First, I want to get to the chat real quick. Cincy in the chat says, waiting for AEW Marks to say she's going to AEW. Liam says, breaking news. Saraya Bevis is all elite, LOL. I believe she's going to go by Saraya Knight, or Saraya. I'm not sure how to say it exactly, but Paige here for not that much longer. So obviously the question does come up about where she's going to go and what her future might look like. Immediately, I mean, look, we have a month until her contract is up, and here's the thing. Her last day with WWE, this is looking like most likely it's a contract situation, and if it is, that means that there is no non-compete, and she can just go whenever she feels like, or whenever she feels like she's ready to wrestle again, she can go sign with whoever she wants. So, if again, that is assuming that this is a contract expiring, which it likely is. I doubt that WWE and Paige came to an agreement on a release. But July 7th is going to be a huge day in pro wrestling because someone, I promise you, calls are going to be made. Calls are going to be made to Paige. Calls are going to be made to Saraya. Someone's going to call her the second her contract is up. and she might get an offer that's just too sweet to not accept. So there's a lot of interest, obviously, also to see what she has not left, but what she can do after all this time away from the ring. Because I think it's for anyone to say that Paige, we don't know if she can still go, we don't know if she can still wrestle. I mean, Edge came back after a decade off. Christian came back after 7 years. Ronda just came back after 3 years off or 2 years off, however long it was. You're telling me that Paige, who, by the way, I don't think she's 30 yet. I think Paige is like 28 years old. She's very, very young. Like, she has an opportunity here to be at a point where many people are starting their wrestling careers. Like, I just looked it up. She's 29 years old. All right? For comparison, like, the current AEW World Champion Thunder Rosa is like 35. And again, age is but a number in pro wrestling these days. But I'm trying to tell you guys, this is someone who is, in all honesty, still at the beginning of what she can do as a pro wrestler. That is how highly people regard Paige. That's how highly I regard Paige, and I think it's for good reason. The entire idea that someone, needs to be wrestling every single day for years on end to still be able to do it after a long time, I don't buy that, because it's just been disproven by everything we've seen. AEW itself is a company that is built on the fact that one of its big attractions is that wrestlers don't wrestle every single day. That's one of the big things that actually helps drive people there. It's one of the big reasons Bryan Danielson went there. He said it's less toll on his body, it's less time away from his family. And look, that's the thing. So, and we've seen, again, I've said Christian Cage, I've said Edge, Sting is another person who's done that. So it's not a factor of whether or not she can go. I am more than confident that Paige can go. The only question is going to be for whom. Like, someone's going to pay her, whether it's MLW, Impact, whether she could go back to England. She could go back to England, be the biggest star in the entire country, still be the biggest star in the entire country, which is something I don't know she could do. It's very possible she could do that. Like, she's discussed being away from her family and missing her family. She's discussed the prospect of going back as well on podcasts and whatnot. So wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Again, at the end of the day, it is her decision. But what I'll say is, when you want to be the biggest fish out there, when you want to be the biggest fish out there, if you're AEW, right? And again, this is me making the case for Paige in AEW, and I'll make the case for Paige in other places as well. But AEW right now seems like a logical and honestly the place where she's probably going to get paid the most money. If I'm AEW and my women's division, for whatever reason, and again, this is a lot of it is due to booking. A lot of it is due to booking and the idea that, the women aren't draws, even though some of your biggest draws are Britt Baker, DMD, and Jade Cargill, both of whom are women, both of whom were champions for a long time. But regardless, you want to buck that perception, you get a game changer like Paige. You get a game changer like Saraya. You get her in there, and you just have her do the CM Punk thing. Have the comeback, have it be big, and just have her wrestle the hell out of everyone every single week. Make it the Saraya Open Challenge, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. Just have her go out there, have a match every single week, show off how great she is, and people will tune in just for her. I promise you that. Now, whether or not that happens is completely up to Tony Khan and whoever books the AEW's women's division. Because it is not like I'm going to be very clear. Tony Khan, as far as booking men's wrestling, is the best booker on the planet. Tony Khan, as far as booking women's wrestling, is one of, if not the worst, primary booker on the planet. Like, the only reason is, like, if you count New Japan, which again they don't have women's wrestling. They have like another company for that in Stardom. So like they don't even count on that scale. So if you're not counting them, it's probably Tony Khan. He's not good at booking women. Like this is just, I'm sorry. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it. I know a lot of people are really upset about the fact that I just said that, but it's true. And I think, and that's not saying it can't get better. That's not saying that people can't. That's not saying that people can't change their bad habits, because AEW does have a bad habit of just forgetting about these things. Like the entire buildup of the Serena Deeb Thunder Rosa storyline going into AEW Double or Nothing was completely just forced. Like, and I'm not talking about the storyline was forced itself. Like, it just, every segment just felt like, here is our women's division. We have one. Because Thunder Rosa would just come out, cut a 2-minute promo, if that, and then walk out. It was so weird. Like literally something they could have done backstage. Instead of just putting people in matches, like, it's an easy thing. They could have just put Serena Deeb in, like, warm-up matches. And just have her, like, clobber people leading up to the pay-per-view. And watch have Thunder Rosa at ringside or on commentary. Like, again, wrestling is simple, people. Wrestling is pretty simple. But either way, let's talk about the woman of the hour right now, Paige. And I do want to get to some of your chats. Guys, if you're just joining us, it's a great time to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I want to go back to Paige's statement real quick. As you can see right here, here it is. She's announced that on July 7th will be her last day in WWE. At the end of that statement, as you can see right there, it says, FYI, I'm not saying I'll never be in the ring. That day will most certainly come again, wherever the return may be. So she's teasing that return, obviously. She's teasing that return, and it's just a matter of time until we find out where that return is going to be. We're just less than a month away from her contract officially expiring, it looks like. I want to go to the chat real quick. Surf Wrestling is in the chat. Hello, Surf Wrestling says, some people are saying Liv Morgan will be leaving soon. Maybe. She might be. She might have a riot with a reunion down there in AEW. You never know. You never know. Surf Wrestling says, Paige is going where it's a TV cable, not off TV. Going to AEW, I mean, again, I said going to AEW is where she's likely going to make the most amount of money. It would make a lot of sense. She could have a lot of great matches. My only concern is the booking. I am terrified of the way that AEW would book her. Like that's how bad the booking is, honestly, in AEW's women's division. I used to be excited when people like Ruby Riott or now Ruby Soho, when people would get released, or you know, like even Toni Storm when she's debuted, you know, I would get excited, and then I would just see the product on TV and it's not good. The way they book them, it has nothing to do with the actual wrestlers, but the way they book women's wrestling is just not good. It's objective. Like there's no way around it. You can't defend it. You have Jade Cargill and Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who are the two of the biggest draws in the company. And they're just almost incapable of booking it sometimes. It's actually, I don't get it. Cincy in the chat says, let me guess, they're going to AEW too. Everyone's going to AEW. Cincy, come on, be nice. Liam says, Paige, look at me. Vince, fire me. Fire me. You effing Mark, fire me. Oh, God, MJF is gold, isn't he? Surf Wrestling says, Paige didn't fit the new WWE vibe anymore. The WWE women's wrestling vibe is very hard not to fit, unless you're on NXT, because we know the situation that Athena, now formerly known as Ember Moon, went through, where she felt like she was being forced to do something and be something she wasn't. But main roster, I think it's actually like fine. Liam says, I need Paige to come in to Money in the Bank to wish the WWE farewell. I don't know about the likelihood of that happening, but, you know, could she have one last appearance? Who knows? The company has been nice about these types of things before, but I don't know. We'll see. Cincy in the chat says, MJF in WWE about to be fired. He's not going to WWE. At least not right now. Him and Tony Khan, by the way, I don't know if we ever mentioned this, but Tony Khan and MJF, the night after Double or Nothing, had a meeting. They sat down, had a meeting, and apparently they hashed things out, and this is now all part of a storyline. Like, they've said, okay, we've hashed things out. We're at least fine for now. What happens in 2024, in January 2024, when MJF's contract is up, is a totally different thing. But for right now, they seem to be fine. MJF and Tony are working a story where MJF is basically doing the Brian Pillman route, and we'll see where that goes, but I did want to clear that up. Surf Wrestling says Jade Cargill is dropping the belt from Athena, so that's not a secret. Is she? Did I miss something on Dynamite or Rampage the past few weeks? I don't know if she's dropping the belt to Athena. I thought the whole point was to get a 6-woman tag match and I don't know, kind of go from there. But who knows? Again, if the story is built right, and if they have a lot of stock riding in Athena, which no reason not to, right? She's amazing. But like you could do that story. I just don't think that right now. I don't think Jade should lose. I just think she's too much of a draw. She's too big. As far as the brand that she's building, it's only going to go up. I think you keep the belt on her. That's just what I would do. Since he says, we all know MJF was never leaving, but I got to make jokes. Buddy, I mean, Saturday night, we in the spot. Don't believe me, just watch. That's what MJF was saying that whole time. Except he wasn't in the spot. He was not showing up. Surf Wrestling says, Omar, I think Bayley is legit going to NXT. People always talking about how their ratings are down, so I'm saying July 5th on USA Network. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Bayley is... She's too good. She is too much of a draw for WWE not to be on the main roster, and her return is going to be on the main roster. Like, they know that's going to rile up interest. They know that's going to pop a rating, and they're going to need her. They're going to need as many people as possible on WWE TV, whether it's SmackDown or Raw, especially for Raw, considering we're only 2 months away from football season starting back up. Like, the preseason is just right around the corner, and people watch primetime preseason games. Like, people watch those games. Like, people watch football. So, I'm just saying, like, I think the time of people who are main roster, like people who are main roster people going down to NXT and that being like a third brand, I think the time for that is generally over, unless you're a Dolph Ziggler or a Natalya, like a veteran who, for whatever reason, had a ceiling in WWE. Like that's just the God's honest truth. That is just the God's honest truth. I mean, we all know it. Like, no matter how great Dolph Ziggler and Natalya are in the ring, in WWE, and the way that they were booked for so long, it was always that they're really good. They're great. But they got a ceiling. And everyone knows that. But I don't think that she's going to NXT. Surf says they're saving her for Great American Bash. I don't think so. And honestly, I don't think that would be the smart thing to do. I think Bayley is a main eventer. You put her on the main roster. She's not jobbing to NXT people. But again, we can talk about Bayley and everyone else all they want. I do want to bring our attention back to Paige and some of the potential landing spots. Another potential landing spot for Paige, honestly, don't be surprised by this. And again, it's all dependent on what she wants to do. Another potential landing spot that I could see could be Impact Wrestling. Because when you look at the landscape of Impact Wrestling in the women's division, Impact Wrestling books their women's division like better than definitely better than AEW, but you could argue better than WWE too. And they've got some prime time players, like I said. Again, it's, as I fix that up, again, it is dependent on the way you kind of view, I guess, what is real wrestling, what's not. She can make decent money wrestling for Impact Wrestling too. But the matches she could have with people like Mickie James, matches she could have with people like Deonna Purrazzo, like there are many people. Oh, whoops! There she could wrestle and she could have a fun time. And I'm just saying, don't count it out. Don't count it out. Impact's a great place there she could go. But, I do think it's going to end up coming down to whether or not she wants to go back to England. Like, she very well could. She very well could. And she could do that for a little bit and then choose to come back to the States and make a lot of money. Make a lot of money. Build her name, build her reputation even more. And make a lot more money than she would have, I think. Like, because that could be a very good strategy about doing it. Like, not just, like, obviously she's got big name recognition and she's going to be worth a lot of money now, but she could do a thing where she goes for 6 months and just tears it up on the UK indie scene and revives the UK indie scene, because COVID did a number on the UK indie scene. Like, it was bad. It was bad. Like, the UK indie scene was thriving for years. Like, from 2014 till like 2019, 2020, like the UK indie scene was live. It was active. And then COVID happened and it's just struggled to catch up and become revived. Paige could do that. Paige is someone who could 100% do that. And then she does that for like 6 months, whatever. She goes and she could get paid even more money. To whether she wants to return to WWE, whether she wants to go to AEW, whether she wants to go wherever. So we'll see. Surf Wrestling asks, does Paige have a kid? I don't believe so. Surf Wrestling also asks, Impact Wrestling is just a horrible cable channel. That's the only problem. It's great wrestling. It's just Access TV. It's like, you just don't know if you have Access TV. Paige to DPW. DPW. Since he got me hip to DPW, that is some good wrestling. That is some good wrestling. I'll give you that. But again, for those of you just joining us, guys, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. YouTube.com/Real Take Sports. For those of you listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review as well. Paige leaving WWE. Again, I will turn everyone's attention to this statement from Paige. This was from her Twitter. Not going to read the whole thing again, but she says in it, July 7th will be my last day in WWE. She thanks the company. She thanks the fans. Obviously, Paige has not wrestled since suffering that neck injury back in, I believe, 2017. She came in as the general manager of SmackDown in 2018 as an on-screen character. And she went on to say in the last sentence, you can see right there, FYI, I'm not saying I'll never be in the ring. That day will most certainly come again, wherever the return may be. Thank you, WWE, Saraya. So, a lot of places you could go. Kid Bandit needs to be signed to Impact Wrestling, yes. Prestige Wrestling. Interesting. But yeah, so Paige leaving WWE is probably going to be the story of the weekend now that it's happened. And you're going to see a lot of different takes, and none of them are wrong, I think. Like honestly, anything could happen at this point. She could do whatever she wants. And that's what I love about this. The unpredictability of it all is actually like entertaining in itself. And that's one of the beauties of pro wrestling. Even when wrestling isn't on, you're still entertained and you're still caught up in it. It's dope. But it's always moving. Like, there's never a slow week in pro wrestling, is there? But Paige obviously tweeting this out. We'll see what happens as we start to wrap things up, because I don't want to babble on for too long. Guys, get your last few questions in. Hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Again, guys, hit that like button so as many people see this as possible, so that we can build a community and we can build a fun time. We're going to have a lot of fun over the next few weeks with some of the stuff we got. We got a Money in the Bank stream coming up. We have Wrestling with Omer on Monday nights. We got OT Graps on Tuesday nights. Got a lot of stuff in the works as well. So the content is here. The content is here to stay. But last thought on Paige. One thing that I want to say, and I think it's very important, Paige has been through a lot over the past 5-6 years. She has been through a lot. And I'm not going to relitigate all of it. I'm not going to air all the dirty laundry out there. It's out there. Like, I don't need to tell you. She's someone who's been through a lot. She, and on top of going through all this turmoil in her personal life, she had like the one thing that she really had to fall back on taken away from her in pro wrestling. And again, I'm someone who thinks that we should be appreciative of superstars or wrestlers, superstars, there you go, whatever you want to call them. Like, my thing is always been, I love good wrestling, but I love great wrestlers even more. And Paige is a great wrestler. And if there's any time to support her, it's now. It's if there's any time to put away this BS of being a pro WWE guy or a pro WWE girl or pro AEW. I hate that stuff so much, people, because there's going to be people who were saying that Paige should return a Money in the Bank like yesterday who are now going to be saying, oh my God, Paige leaving WWE. I knew it. And then they're going to say all these horrible things about her. And that's like the toxic nature of pro wrestling that I hate. Of pro wrestling fandom that I really don't like. And I really like, here's the thing. We joke, right? We all joke, but there's a line, and everyone knows there's a line. And I just hope that people out there, don't cross the line. Like, that's my only thing. But if there's ever a time to support her, like, and be happy, genuinely be happy for someone when something like this happens, because everyone knows that she's wanted to wrestle for years. Everyone knows that WWE doctors, for whatever reason, have not cleared her. That's fine. That's their prerogative. But it's also her prerogative and her right. If she wants to leave, to leave. So and again, if you're not supportive of her leaving, that's fine. Like I'm not going to, that's fine. That's your right. Just don't be mean about it and don't be obnoxious, because we can have fun, we can joke around, we can be playful. We can even give people you can even tease people sometimes. But know what you're teasing them about, know what you're joking about, be aware, be self-aware, and know when you've crossed the line, because that's the one thing I really hope I don't see over the next few days or hours or whatever. I don't want to see people cross the line, because Paige is an amazing human being. She is an amazing pro wrestler, and I can't wait to see what she does next. Guys, final shout, hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. YouTube.com/Real Take Sports, YouTube.com/Real Take Wrestling as well for all your wrestling content. Be sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star review. Patreon.com/Real Take Sports to donate. And as always, be happy, be healthy, keep it real. Paige, she's leaving WWE. Big time stuff. See you next time.